All right, welcome to the Atheist Experience. For those of you who are watching the intro where you heard "so you think" over and over, that was not a mistake. We just really wanted to encourage thinking on the Atheist Experience show. Today is January 8th, 2017. We're starting a whole new year.
We are. Happy New Year.
Is that, well, it's, for me, I get it. New Year's Eve, big party, people have lots of fun. I appreciate it. I recognize the social significance of things like that, birthdays and whatever. And yet, for me, I can't get over the fact that it's just another day. It's like, I remember the Y2K stuff. Oh my gosh, the end of the world, and
Goodness.
Nothing really happened
At all. I remember my dad, he bought multiple books literally on that topic. I remember them being on his bookshelf. He was like prepping for this. He installed software on me and my brother's computer to protect against the bug, however it was gonna. It was pretty serious, and then it just rolled by like nothing. Yeah. It was pretty not eventful.
It's one of those things. So for those of you who are enjoying the fact that, hey, it's 2017, woo, yeah, enjoy it. For me, it's another day, although I did get back from vacation where I spent a week and a half of it down with some kind of crud, cold, sickness and everybody else had it, and evidently it lasts for 3 weeks. So if you notice that my voice is a little rough, that's the case. This is a live show out of Austin, Texas. So, like when we say we'll do it live, we do that every week. I mean, it's just like, it's nothing. It's live TV. And that means anything can happen. We're sponsored by the Atheist Community of Austin, a nonprofit educational organization supporting separation of religion and government. A nod to my friend Amanda, who prefers that phrasing, and I think she's right. And it's an opportunity to interact with people and have conversations about what you believe and why. We do have a preference for theist callers, but we will also take atheist callers either when we run out or when it seems like there's a topic that's worth addressing. Phil's got a bunch of announcements. Oh, I never even said who we were.
No,
it's on this. It's on the screen.
It happens to be right.
It's there every week. I'm that asshole from Texas, and Phil is my co-host.
A partner in crime over here.
Yeah.
But yes.
But you've got announcements to get through, and then I've got one announcement. And
Yes.
We'll take some calls.
So as I normally do when I'm on the show, I announce the different volunteer things that the ACA has going on. So coming up for this month, the first one we'll have coming up for the ACA is our Texas Ramp Project. And for those of you that are not aware, the Texas Ramp Project helps build wheelchair accessible ramps for those that have motor disabilities and are of low income. And so in December, the ACA actually did two in 1 month. One was our regularly scheduled one, and then another one was a special ramp for an individual who he went to go have some surgery done. The surgery went bad, and he ended up losing a limb, and so he needed a wheelchair ramp for his home. And so we helped to get that built along with a team from NVIDIA, actually, the graphics company. They came out as well to help with that. But the next one we have will be on the 28th of this month.
Wait, you mean you're telling me there are people at NVIDIA who aren't atheists?
There's a few there.
All right.
But no, it was awesome. It was quite a bit of us there to get there up together. So it'll be on the 28th. That's the fourth Saturday of this month at 8 a.m. And the information will be on our Facebook and Meetup pages once that address is actually assigned to us. And following that immediate next day on the 29th, that Sunday, at 9 o'clock, I'm one of the co-coordinators for the Austin Atheists Helping the Homeless. And so we'll be out under I-35 and 7th Street in downtown Austin to help give supplies to the local population here, those that are homeless or those that just need some help, that actually have homes that just need a little assistance on that side. So, but right after that, at 11 o'clock on that same 29th will be ACA's street cleaning, where we go out and clean one of our adopted streets out in Austin. So this one will be the north location at Anderson and Burnett. We meet at the Jack in the Box right there on that corner, and we clean up half a mile to Olin Street, turn around, and keep that area clean for Keep Austin Beautiful. So it's a pretty awesome thing. And I'm excited for February. We'll be starting for the first time on February 18th, tree planting down here in Austin. So the city of Austin has partnered with the Tree Life folks. And so members from the ACA will be going down there to help plant saplings along the street, right along the, I think it was the Bastrop River, I think that's what it was, down on the side. So it's towards the southern side of Austin, but that'll be pretty awesome. So yeah, those are my announcements for the volunteer stuff, and I think Matt has one.
Well,
Would you like to
also
share?
on the Atheist Helping the Homeless. Now, first of all, full credit to you and the original organizers of this, Joe Zemecki and others, and putting this together. These various, both the ramp and Atheist Helping the Homeless, these aren't ACA things. That we didn't start these, but there are a number of people in the atheist community of Austin that participate. Sure. I have been out of town for almost everything, but for the January thing of Atheist Helping the Homeless, my wife has a knitting machine. Actually, she has two of them.
Yeah,
but one of them makes hats really quickly, like 30 minutes a hat. Yeah. So over the holidays, over the vacation that we just took, we bought just like oodles and gobs of yarn.
Oh, awesome.
Not that we didn't already have a whole room full of yarn for her knitting and my crochet projects, but these were
Literally.
specific. Yeah. She has cranked out, I don't know, 25, 30 hats or so, something like that.
That's awesome.
Her goal is to have 50 done by the time we go down there to hand out hats as well. Any of these efforts, if you're in Austin and you have the time, you don't have to show up with a bunch of money and stuff. There's always room for a helping hand.
Yeah, just to help give out items and things like that. So if you don't have the money to contribute and just want to help just show up, help us set up, and help distribute items to people. We serve between 100 and 150 people, 150 people per time. So it goes by pretty quickly. It's about 30 to 45 minutes or so that it lasts throughout that time. But yeah, just...
Which means, Beth, you need to get more hats done. I mean, if you're not making hats right now, honey, there's a problem.
Literally right.
But I also wanted to announce the Center for Inquiry Austin. If you're in the Austin area, you can go to cfi-austin.org for more information about the Center for Inquiry, specifically Darwin Day, February 11th. It's a Saturday, 2017. Up on their webpage, they have a list of the events and the speakers, including Professor Rebecca Lewis. There's a Darwin and General Science Adult Trivia Contest. Professor Mike Ryan's going to speak. Claire Woolner, Lisa Peters, Alex Wild.
I said our own Claire Wilner there.
Yeah.
She's on the board of the Atheist Community.
I was speaking with her at today's lecture, which was also a friend of mine, in Eileen Flynn Dillahunty. Anyway, you can go to cfi-austin.org for more information. That'll be here in Austin, February 11th. Lots of things to do. And you said in past years they had done like kid-specific events. I don't know if that's on there.
Yes, I went last year to the Darwin Day. It was the first time that I had ever been to it. But
here it is.
I was just saying, there was a lot of activities for kids. Like,
interactive activities for kids. So one of the things we keep getting asked is, you guys are doing, skeptics in the pub, or you're going to this bar to talk about this, and you're doing this other thing at a bar, and then you're doing a boring lecture, and then there's a bar. What am I supposed to do with my kids? Well, bring them to the bar. I mean, it's Texas. But for something like Darwin Day, here's the list of interactive activities for kids of all ages: vertebrate paleontology fossils, walk like a dinosaur, a fossil excavation site, living large under the microscope, which you had done before.
Oh, yeah, it was awesome. Last year, like they took a sample from, I think it was a local pond here in Austin, or something to that effect, and brought it in, put it under a microscope, and blew it up on this large screen so you can actually see the microorganisms, moving around, actually eating and living within this small piece of water. It was awesome.
But there'll be an Art of Evolution coloring table, face painting, physics phenomena, Dino Lab puzzler, to be or not to be a dinosaur, sifting for evidence, and the adult trivia contest, which I'm pretty sure is a trivia contest for adults, not about adult topics. But I'm not organizing this, so I might actually be wrong. So let's move on to an adult topic. You had something you wanted to address before we get to callers, and there's nothing that makes it easier to talk about death and dying than adult trivia contests.
So
I'm known for my segues.
Is that what it is? That was.
I'm so sorry. We're just Happy New Year.
So yes, today I just want to touch on a little bit, because we addressed it today at the Lackland Air Force Base. For you all that don't know, as you're aware, that there may be people, the trainees will go to church services, things of that sort. So Catholic services, Jewish services, things of that sort. Well, at Lackland is the first place in the entire Department of Defense that has an atheist humanist meeting on the base. And so last week we just hit a record of 1,200 attendees showing up. So different trainees and recent airmen, things of that sort. So it was pretty awesome. But today's topic was concerning death and how to deal with death, when were a former believer and now you're no longer a believer, or how do you deal with things that happen in the military when you're deployed overseas, things of that sort. And I really enjoy listening to the trainees' responses to the items. But for me personally, for dealing with loved ones, like my grandmother on my dad's side just passed away last year. My grandmother on my mom's side was the year before that. Things of that sort. And for me, I was raised as a Southern Baptist, so I had a very clear idea of what the afterlife was. When they passed away, all the church services, all the people around me, the pastors, everything said that you'll meet them on the other side. They're in a better place. That was a part of their stick to make their congregants feel better, to make my family feel better. But now that I'm a non-believer, I don't have that particular crutch to kind of land on. And so what it became for me is remembering what they meant to me and the impact that they had. So I like to use my great-grandmother as an example. I was at least around for the first 12 years of my life. She was still around, and she died when she was 103 in 1999. And I thoroughly enjoyed her. She taught us a lot about, just like sewing and like just trying to volunteer and try to help people out. Like she taught us so much, and she had such an impact in that small amount of time. And so even though I don't necessarily have the knowledge or the faith that I'm going to see her on the other side, that we'll all meet up and be this happy family in heaven, she lives on through the memory that of the impacts that she had.
And she clearly taught you well, and you are carrying on her legacy and what she taught you about volunteerism and helping people.
Sure.
And all the projects we just talked about.
Yeah, it's been wonderful. But yeah, that was one of the big questions. One of the other ones, which it gets brought up here and there by emails and sometimes on the show, but one of the questions we posed to the trainees was, well, how do you deal with a believer or something to that effect telling you that your life is meaningless because you believe that you just die at the end of your life, that you don't continue living on, that's just it for you. Like, how can your life have any meaning? And I won't share their stories here, but I was very moved by some of the stories that some of the trainees had. But for me, it's when I had the realization that I didn't have an eternal life. I didn't have this ever expanding point of time where I can just be with everyone in heaven or hell or wherever else. It made my life a heck of a lot more important because I understood that I have this small window of time to actually be on earth, to have an impact, to have an effect on other people's lives. I have 50, 60, 70, maybe 80 years, excuse me, to have an impact on other people's lives, for people to have impacts on mine, to love, to grow, to have relationships and things of that sort. And so coming to the point of realizing that there is no afterlife, or we have no evidence for an afterlife at this point, gave me all the meaning in the world to live my life the fullest, the way I can right now, as much as I can, because this is all I have. This is all that I know that I'll be able to partake in. And so I'm out there, almost every weekend doing different volunteer stuff because that's how I want to have an impact on the world. That's how I want to leave my mark. And so when we plant trees that will grow, for the next couple of generations or whatever else, I know in the fact I won't be here, but someone else will be able to enjoy that hard work that we put in. Or if we're giving out supplies or food to those that are less fortunate. Yesterday we did the San Antonio Food Bank down in San Antonio to help package boxes for seniors around in Bexar County, which San Antonio is located in 16 surrounding counties. So we packed 39,000 pounds of food in about 2 hours on that side to go out to different scenes. And so, they don't know me. They'll never know who actually packed the box, who actually did whatever else. But I know that I had an impact on their lives and I had an impact going on. And for me, that's enough for me. That is satisfactory for me going forward. And so that gives my life meaning, and I'll continue to pursue that over the duration of my lifetime, however long that is.
It's one of those things I've talked about before when people have this view of a life that isn't centered around a God or a religion, that all that's left is selfishness. And one of the things that I've pointed out is what people's perceptions of selfishness is, that it's, let me just do whatever I want for me, this kind of hedonistic thing, diminishes an aspect of selfishness, which is good. So when you plant a tree, 100 years from now, nobody's going to know, hey, Phil planted this tree for me. But you know it right now. You know right now that somebody's going to enjoy that later. There was a discussion that I had just this morning, which I've had before. And I'm not a teetotaler. I am a tequila snob, and I like an occasional margarita. But I also like my brain when it's working. And when we went to Colorado, where weed is legal, I had an edible. I'm not a big fan of weed, but it should be legal everywhere because I don't care. It just seems silly that it's illegal, but it's not my thing. And I sat around at a convention after taking this edible, and there were people asking me questions. And I couldn't remember what I said 10 seconds before. Now, when it was all over, they said, oh, you gave really good answers. And that terrifies me, because does that mean I was on autopilot? That I was just regurgitating whatever happened to be stored in my brain, that there was no thought or input behind it? Or does it mean that I actually did think and did give good answers, but now I can't recall what they were? And for me, the value of those interactions with the callers on this show or with somebody out in the community as I travel around is the memory of it. I get to store this away. And while I like feeling good as much as anybody else would, I don't want my brain to be altered such that even if I'm doing a good job explaining something, I don't get that experience. You could say, oh, that's incredibly selfish of you, Matt. Why not just get high and give everybody else the experience of being around you when you're high, and then you don't get an experience? I'm selfish enough that I want the experience because this is how we learn, this is how we grow, this is how we get better at doing what we do. This is, I don't think that there is any afterlife. I can't say for certain. If there is, it's a bonus. I certainly don't see that any religions manage to get it right. But when I say it's a bonus, I'm being literal, that the value in life is in living it and in the experiences, good and bad, to be able to learn from things and to understand the world better. And when people say, well, why would you atheists do anything? Why would you go help the homeless? Because it feels good, because I recognize that if I were in their situation, I would rather live in a kind of society where people did that sort of thing. And I would like to encourage this in other people as well. I mean, this is the core of humanism in action, not humanism as an ideology, as in, oh, we're all stuck here, we've got to find a way to get along, and we'll have these, esoteric arguments about morality. There's also humanism in practice, which is doing good for the sake of doing good, not doing good because somebody told you or because you're going to get a reward in an afterlife, but because it benefits somebody, and that somebody is part of the community that I'm also a part of. I may never need those resources. I could need those resources tomorrow. And so I'd rather live in a society where I contribute from what I can to do whatever I can to help out others, in the hopes that while I may never need it, at least I've built a kind of society that might allow it to be there when it is needed. And this is, it's the same thing for me with death. I think we as a society have done a horrible job, partially because of the way religions treat death, of we failed to teach people how to view death as a seemingly inevitable, natural conclusion to a life, and that there's nothing wrong with mourning and crying and missing people, but when religions paint it as, oh, hey, you'll get to see them in the next world.
Right.
I think it was Penn Jillette on, I think it was This I Believe, something on public radio, where he pointed out that that doesn't encourage you to treat people right the first time. If you think this is the one and only life you're going to get, you're more likely to treat people well rather than hoping that you can make amends in an afterlife, which was good. On that note, you ready to get to some callers?
Yeah, let's go
All
for
right.
it. Start off the new year.
The phone number's right there above Phil, although all the lines are full. And as a reminder, they'll put up the address of where we're going for dinner, which I'm assuming is still Star of India, but if not, there'll be a scream from the other room as they put the correct, there it is. Star of India, 2900 West Anderson Lane. If you're in the Austin area and you are an atheist or atheist-friendly individual who'd like to come down and join us, please do. We've got online too, Charlie in Honolulu, Hawaii.
Hey, wow, it's great to talk to you guys.
Hey, thanks for calling.
I got on a day when Matt's there. It's a miracle.
Oh, it's not a miracle. I do this show quite often.
I think you were on the schedule.
So as somebody who has been watching every season of Hawaii Five-0 now over the course of this vacation, mahalo, what did you want to talk about?
I wanted to present you with a scenario about for some evidence of the existence of God.
Which God?
See what you Jehovah,
Okay.
God of the Jews.
Okay.
So, okay, one of the things is that this planet and this universe it really doesn't work. It's not it's not reasonable, and it's really not scientific because things like oxygen doesn't wear out. It isn't used up. It just works over and over and over and over and over and over again.
I'm afraid you
That's
don't.
not scientific, and it's not reasonable.
Well, I would say it's probably not scientific because it's also not true. You do realize that
Yes, it is.
when you breathe in oxygen, your system breaks it down, and then you exhale carbon dioxide.
No, that's not true. The carbon dioxide, the oxygen atom on the carbon dioxide is the same one that you breathed in.
Oh, I understand that. What I'm saying is that what you're describing, that oxygen never wears out. Oxygen is used, and it can be. Well, go ahead with your thought.
Well, that's it. It's just a strange phenomenon.
Let's assume that it's a strange phenomenon and that an oxygen, molecule. An oxygen atom. My brain's not working today. Stays the same forever and never changes. So what?
Yeah.
What is it about that that's unscientific?
Well, how can it possibly be? I mean,
that's not an argument to say that I don't understand how this could be the case, and therefore it means it's likely there's a God. That is, by definition, a fallacy of an argument from ignorance.
Well, yeah, but what I'm saying is that this place does not work. Something is causing it.
What do you mean it doesn't? What do you mean it doesn't work? It seems to work. It seems to have worked for billions of years.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. See, it does work. Something is causing it to work. It's not, but it doesn't actually work. Oxygen is not used up. Nothing is used up. Everything decays back to its atoms, and then it becomes something else. It goes right back on. We're living in a giant terrarium.
Okay, so even if we were to accept that that we couldn't explain, how these things came to be, how oxygen atoms stay intact over time. How does that lead to a deity of some sort, or specifically your Jehovah?
Well, because I'm just saying that this whole universe, this planet, it's ridiculous. The darn thing cannot work. It doesn't work. It's not reasonable that things like are reused again and again and again. They're not used up.
What's unreasonable about that? Because you seem to have this view of reality as if it's something other than what it is, which is just patterns in motion.
Well, yeah, but you have these elements that make up things, and it's not the stuff isn't used up. Oxygen goes into a flame to make it burn, but the oxygen isn't used up.
Yeah. So we're talking about the atoms, I wouldn't say the base particles of the universe, but you do realize that these are created in stars. It's not like they always existed, right?
Well, science. That's what science says. They've always existed.
Okay, when you say that's
anyway,
Charles, when you say that's what science says, let's not pretend that science is like, I don't know, a spaceship hovering out in the middle of nowhere disseminating information. We're talking about the descriptions of the universe by the people who have devoted their lives to studying it and giving us the best explanations, that these are constantly subject to revision when we find new information. So let's not pretend that like science is some entity sitting out there saying, yep, this is the way it is. Let's not talk about science that way. If you're objecting and you're going to say that the universe is unreasonable, the argument that you seem to have made is here are atoms, and they don't get used up, and that's unreasonable, therefore God.
Yeah.
That's your argument?
Well, I'm saying that something has to be causing the thing to work, because it doesn't work. It's unreasonable.
You haven't. First of all, you need to define work. What do you mean by work? Because you've said it works and it doesn't work. When I think what you mean, what I think you mean is that it works even though you think it shouldn't.
No. I'm saying that it's totally unreasonable. It can't work. Life cannot exist on this darn thing. We're sitting in space.
I'm doing everything I can to reform your babble into something sensible. Because you keep making these hyperbolic statements about life can't exist here. Yeah. Well, it does, so clearly that statement isn't true. What you mean to say is it doesn't seem to be that we have an explanation for how life can exist here, even though it does. That's a much different...
I'm saying that... No. I'm saying that it does work.
Correct, but how many times have you said it doesn't work?
No. I'm saying it cannot work.
Okay.
Something is causing
No. Okay, this is what I'm... Oh, Charles, for crying out loud. You keep using shortcuts. You say it doesn't work, and then when I correct that, you say it can't work, when what you really mean is you do not see how it can work without something else contributing.
Okay.
Then let's use that phrasing. Because when you say something like it can't work, when we have clear evidence that it does work, you look crazy.
No, all we have evidence of is that it is working.
And I should say irrational there. I mean, you look irrational when you say that. So we're back to what I was talking about a moment ago, which is the universe appears to be functioning.
Yes.
And you don't see how that's possible without the intervention of some deity.
Well, yeah, because it's not scientific. It's not reasonable.
Okay, I don't think either of us knows enough about science to engage on your claim that it's not scientific, because science is descriptive, not prescriptive. Science does its best to explain how things are working. The fact that science doesn't have an explanation for it does not mean that something is irrational or unreasonable or impossible.
You mean you think that it's reasonable that oxygen just works over and over and over? It doesn't wear out?
Even if
it's not used up?
Even if we said that, say we didn't know anything about the atoms or anything to that effect, that still wouldn't necessarily lead us to a deity or your specific deity, Jehovah, that you're referencing. And that's what I'm trying to get that particular portion. You're saying that you don't understand how, that you see that the universe is working, that we're alive here on space, but you're saying that we shouldn't be, that we're just a floating ball or whatever else. But you're saying that you can't see how that's going, which, I mean, that's just saying that you don't know how that it's actually working. But rather than just saying that, oh, you don't know how this universe is working correctly, how we're still here, how we're alive, rather than just saying that, you're saying that, oh, well, God is intervening, but not just any deity, your specific one named Jehovah, as you mentioned before. And so that's why I'm trying to get that disconnect from the fact that you don't know and don't understand how it's working to it's a deity, a specific one, Jehovah, the one that you believe in, I'm assuming.
No, that's not what I said. I said I believe in Jehovah. I'm not saying that anybody else believes in Jehovah or has to believe in Jehovah, or that Jehovah is the one that's doing it. I'm just putting forth this scenario.
No, if we rewound the tape, we would get back to the beginning of this call where you were going to present evidence and argument for God, and I said, which God? And you said Jehovah.
Yeah, well, that's the God I'm talking about.
Okay, but nothing in your argument, even if it were correct, even if, I would recommend also that you do some research on radioactive decay, but even if your argument were correct, it doesn't get you to Jehovah, so it's not an argument for the God you believe in or the God you claimed you were going to give an argument for.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying that I believe in this God Jehovah.
Why?
I'm not
saying... Why?
Well, because he's with me, within me, a part of me.
How do you know that?
Well, I'm the one who let him in.
You're the one who what?
Let him in.
Okay, how did you let him in?
Well, same thing where you take air in. You just let it in. You don't have to do anything. The air will come in if you let it in. Jehovah will come in if you let him in.
Okay, how do you do that?
Just like you let in air. Just let it in.
Is Jehovah in me now? I just let some air in.
No, Jehovah's not. Well, he might be the air, but the kingdom is different from the air.
Is Jehovah in me?
If you let him in.
If I don't let him in, does that mean I'm more powerful than Jehovah? And does it also mean that Jehovah isn't everywhere?
No.
Is Jehovah is Jehovah everywhere?
Yes.
Then how could he possibly not be in me if he's everywhere?
Well, because you have a free. He's given you a free.
No,
will
you
to
just
reject
said
him.
you just said that Jehovah. You just said, Charles. You just said that Jehovah is everywhere, and you said that Jehovah is not in me. Those two statements are contradictory.
Okay, well, you could take the attitude of the Hindu and say he is in you, but you don't realize it, so you have to meditate and withdraw into
Okay,
the Atman.
but now what we're engaged in, Charles, unfortunately, is you're doing whatever tap dance you can so that every time I show that your position is, by definition, contradictory, fallacious, unreasonable, you just make up some new bullshit.
Well, I didn't make an unreasonable statement about oxygen. Oxygen does not use up.
Do you not know anything about radioactive decay, including unstable isotopes of oxygen?
Oh, well, I don't really understand the theory. But
Yeah, okay. I tell you what, we're going to move on to another caller, Charles, because anybody who calls in to say that they don't understand the science while simultaneously claiming that something is unscientific and that this is evidence for a God, the specific God that they believe in, that they let in just like air, but they're not actually saying that this is the God that anybody has to believe in, has wasted my time. On that note, we'll go on to Steve in Phoenix, Arizona. Thanks for waiting.
You're welcome. Thanks, Matt. I've tried to call him several times, but I seem to miss you all the time. I need to preface this thing. Things are either true or not true, right?
Correct. And thank you for saying that things are either true or not true, rather than saying things are either true or false, because that saved us a whole conversation.
Right. Okay. So basically, we could split everything into two columns, and what is true as an absolute.
I don't understand what you mean. I'm happy to say that everything is either true or not true. I don't know why you would have to bring in an absolute.
Well, let me ask you this. Okay, is what is possible, is that true or is it not true? If something is possible, you got a 3 on a dice. It's possible to roll a 3, right?
If you have a standard die that includes a 3, then we calculate the probability. Yes, it's possible to roll a 3, assuming that the die isn't configured so that it can't roll a 3. Then you would say
that it's true.
Then you could say that
you can't say that it's true that it will roll a 3.
It can't say that it's true that it will roll a 3.
Well, all right. Let me. True or not true are like two ends of a string. Would you agree with that?
No.
There's everything fits into one of the two columns.
Yes, everything is either true or not true. We established that in the very first opening sentence.
Okay. So what can we put into the true column?
That gets down to a definition of truth, and the definition of truth that I use most frequently is a thing is true if it conforms to the facts of reality.
Okay, is truth absolute?
Yeah, you'd have to describe what you mean by absolute, but in the sense that it is true, where identity is self, it's absolute in that sense. That I hope you're not talking about confidence levels, because I don't think you can be absolutely confident about anything. But when you say, one is one, and then you say that statement is true, there's a context in which it's absolutely the case that statement is true.
Okay. Well,
I'm trying to see what we're getting to, because right off the bat we agreed everything's true or not true, and I'm trying to figure out what it is. What case are you trying to make?
Okay. Well, okay, because I believe in God because I believe in truth.
Okay.
But I believe that things that are true, and that whatever it is that is true, nothing else is true.
Okay, I'm with you. Steve, hang on. I'm with you that whatever is true is true. That's a tautology. You're right. Whatever's true is true. Okay? When you say you believe in God
Right.
because you believe in truth, I want to believe as many true things and as few false things as possible. The question is it true that a God exists?
Okay, well,
How do you
I
determine whether or not that, okay, here's a statement. Some God exists. Is that statement true or not true, and how do you determine that?
okay, well, no, well, okay, I see what you're saying. And
I'm saying what you were saying. I asked a question, Steve.
Okay.
Everything, Steve, everything is, Steve,
it's not true. I'm going to say that statement is not true.
Okay, so
Okay.
it's not true.
Because I don't know. Because I don't know if God is true.
Okay, first of all, we didn't get to whether or not you know or degrees of certainty or confidence levels. You say everything's true or not true. I agree. Then on the statement, some God exists, you say that statement is not true. I agree. But yet you claim that you believe that a God exists, and you claim that you cared about truth. And you've just acknowledged that from your position, it is not true that some God exists. So then why would you believe in a God?
Because I believe in truth as an absolute.
Okay, you're not, Steve.
Yeah?
Everything's true or not true, right?
Yes,
Now the statement, some God exists, is not true, right?
true. But it's not because it's false.
Now,
It's
I'm not
based
saying
on the
I'm
fact
not
that-
saying it's false, Steve. I'm just going with what you said.
I know.
That you said
I
it's
know.
not true, correct?
Right.
And yet you claim that you believe in a God, and that your reason for believing in a God is because you believe in truth. And yet you are now in contradiction because you are believing something to be true while acknowledging that it's not true.
Well, I'm acknowledging the fact that I don't know as an absolute.
No, you're not, Steve, because I set aside this idea of knowledge and absolutes. I just said the statement, some God exists. Is that true or not true? And you said it's not true, and yet you still believe, and yet you also claim to care about truth. Those things are irreconcilable.
Okay.
You cannot say X is not true, but I believe X and I care about truth. One of those three things has got to go. Which one is it?
Okay. Well, then I believe that God is true.
You believe that God is true. That's a nonsensical statement.
I believe that God exists.
Okay, you believe, so the statement, some God exists, you believe is true,
Yes.
but you just a minute ago said you believe it's not true, or that you're evaluating is not true. So now you both have claimed that you believe that some God exists is true,
Okay.
and that you believe some God exists is not true.
Then I'm not verbalizing it right. I may have misspoken in that sense then. I believe that God exists because things are true. This is what God represents.
What does God and his existence have anything to do with truth? Because I'll tell you right now that no matter what you say, any defense you give of this is necessarily circular. Because now you're going to say there can be no truth without God, and therefore, because there's truth, there is God.
No.
Okay.
I'm not saying that.
I'll bet you $1 you're getting ready to.
Oh. Well, I may send you $1. I believe that things are true. Okay? And I think that God represents those things in the sense that truth is knowable, isn't it?
Truth is knowable. I'm not complete. Can we know in the sense of being aware that things are true? Yes, because we experience reality, we can be aware that things comport with reality. Now, it may be the case that truth itself that the true nature of everything is beyond us, all we're really doing is creating probabilistic models of our experience. But when you say that something comports with reality and we're going to define this as true, then yes, we know of things that fit that definition.
But there's also things in the universe, things that we haven't discovered yet that are true, but we don't have knowledge of it currently. We haven't, reached that far or looked in that space or whatever else. And so that didn't affect the fact that those things still are true in their own right, whatever.
Yeah, 5 miles under, 2 miles underground on Neptune at a specific coordinate is a 27,000 carat diamond. Let's just say that that's true. That doesn't mean anybody knows that it's true. It's a fact about reality that we have not yet discovered, but we could go there and discover it, and when we discovered it, then we would know the truth of this. Now, you believe that a God exists. Why?
Yeah. Okay. Well, let me go back. Okay. I think I don't know if it was you or maybe it was Phil or somebody made the statement that God was born out of our ignorance.
Oh, I've probably said that about many different ideas about God. I'm not sure that we've actually established which God you're talking about yet.
Well, I'm just approaching this from a deist type of thing, a God. I'm not arguing for any specific. I want to.
So I've said this before,
it's more along the lines of trying to define what I believe God is.
Yeah, I've said this before, and I'd make no apologies. The God concept within deism is nonsensical, useless garbage. People have identified with a concept and are desperately trying to find a way to make that concept seem real. The deistic God, even arguing for a prime mover, ultimately when you get to talk about deistic notions of God, they believe in something of which they can tell you no characteristics or qualities or anything else and have no way to verify any of it. So the deistic God is the single most useless God concept I think I've ever heard.
Okay.
And if it doesn't manifest in reality in some detectable way, then you have no mechanism by which to claim that it exists. This is why you're doing.
Okay.
This is why, Steve, you're doing the truth dance by saying, I believe the statement is not true. Oh, wait a minute, I misspoke. I believe that there's a God, and I believe this because we have truth, and I believe some things are true, and therefore there needs to be a God for this to be true.
No. God, it's not that God.
You said a minute ago. You said just a moment ago, God is like the summation of all truth.
I don't believe I said that.
Well, I put it in different language, but you essentially said that God is all true things.
No, that's not what I meant.
Okay, what do you mean?
God, I think that God represents the things that we don't know.
I don't want to know what God represents. I want to know what God is. Because when you say God represents, now you're just using a label placeholder that is an abstraction. Okay. What is God? What God are you talking about?
Well, I don't know how to explain this.
Do you have it? What is your definition of God? You believe there's a God? How can you believe something and not have some rudimentary definition?
Okay, my definition. Here's my definition. Here's what I'm trying to get to. I guess is I define God as the holder of truth.
Oh,
God is that truth. Truth can be known.
Okay, what God is the holder of truth.
Yes.
What does that mean, holder of truth? Does that mean somebody who knows all true things?
That knows things. Yes, he knows the truth of things.
So does he know the truth of all things?
Yes.
How do you know this?
Because truth must be known. Things must be true.
I just gave you an example. I just gave you an example of something that could be true and yet unknown.
You don't know it.
If everybody in the universe dies, including God, but the planets stay here, is it still true that there's a telephone sitting right here on my desk?
Yes.
Then truth doesn't need to be known. So now go back and try and redefine God again.
Wait a minute. Hold up. You said that if everybody's gone except for God and the telephone.
No. If everybody's gone, every mind is gone, and even the God that you think exists ceases to exist. such that only physical stuff in this universe exists. There are no more minds to know anything.
Okay.
Is it still true? Is it still true that there's a telephone on my desk?
There's no way to know.
No, there is a way to know. I just defined the scenario in which everything else remains the same. This telephone is still sitting here, and every mind in the universe and outside the universe, every mind that could know anything, ceases to exist right now, yet this remains the same. Is it still true that there's a phone sitting on this desk?
Well, okay, the truth of the phone sitting on the desk would be unknowable at that point.
I'm not worried about whether or not it's unknown or unknowable. I'm asking, is it still true that there's a phone on this desk?
Okay, is something? Well, that's what I'm trying to get at. Is if something is unknowable, it's indifferent from what exists.
Is it still an accurate fact that there is a phone sitting on this desk?
No.
I don't know what we can continue to talk about then, because what you're describing as truth has nothing in common with what I describe as truth. Truth is that which comports with the facts of reality. And if the fact of reality is that there's a phone sitting on this desk, then it is true that there's a phone sitting on this desk, completely independent of whether anybody is aware of it or not. Your model denies all truth that isn't in the current awareness of some individual, which is why you're positing a God that knows everything when you have no reason to think a God knows anything. Your argument is there must be a God who knows anything, otherwise there can be no truth, which is what I told you were arguing 10 minutes ago. You owe me $1.
Yeah, but that I didn't understand as far as things, if there has to be an external source to hold the truth until it becomes knowable. That's kind of where it was kind of going towards. But I was thinking of the moon Europa. We recently discovered, or relatively recently, that there was a liquid ocean underneath the crust of ice.
Yep.
That was on the outside. And before we knew that, before we actually discovered that fact, that was true. It was already there.
Yep.
We just didn't know about it. It was the ice sitting on top, the water underneath. It was sitting there, but we didn't have knowledge of it. That doesn't make it any less true that the water existed, that it was actually liquid water underneath that portion. Now that we know, it's awesome. We can put it in books and put it online or whatever else, but it's been true the entire time as far as we understand. Well, at least as far as that formation is concerned.
But he thinks the only reason it was true is because there was a God to know that it was true before us. The truth requires some actual interaction with a mind. Now, this is kind of a fungible idea of truth that separates it from the fact of the matter. And that's why I said, let's just throw out the word truth. The fact of the matter is there's a phone sitting here on this desk. And if everybody who knew about it died, there still would be a phone sitting on this desk.
Yeah.
We wouldn't be aware of it, and nobody would know it. But the fact that something isn't currently in our awareness, it's like his model makes every discovery not true
until it was discovered.
Not true until it was discovered.
Yeah.
And that is a usage of the word truth that is about not what is true, but what we can identify as true.
Yeah.
And those are two distinct things, and that's why we kept talking past each other about truth. Because the fact of the matter of what something is separate from whether or not I understand what it is, or if I'm aware of what it is, or if anybody is aware of what it is. Mm-hmm. But what do I know? Because I clearly thought it was impossible for Jehovah to both be everywhere and not be in me.
You certainly inhaled them. That was the thing. That's the thing that happened.
It's Jehovah, man. All right. We've got Adam in Fall River. Thanks for waiting.
Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
Oh, we're doing pretty good. I'm doing good. You doing good?
I'm doing well.
We're doing well.
Excellent. Can't believe I'm on the show. Love you. Just want to say real quick, I love your guys' show very much.
Thank
Definitely
you.
love Phil's shirt. Hopefully I can get
Oh.
an unfiltered version.
There isn't an uncensored
I don't
version
think so.
this is from the University of Texas. No, that's not UTSA. That's,
Yeah, this is from the Secular Student Alliance at UTSA.
I thought it was San Marcos. Okay. Anyway, it's a Texas shirt, but yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No,
what
you're good.
you
Go for
calling
it.
about? I've talked enough.
I actually used to live in Austin off a ranch road too, so it's all around kind of nostalgic. But long story short, I don't want to be one of the longest calls of your night, but I don't want to give you like a life story, but kind of a background as to what I'm calling about is like I was raised Baptist. I'm originally from Florida, so I was raised Baptist. I don't know if that has a correlation, but anyway, raised Baptist, went to a Baptist high school, graduated from that, or not a Baptist high school, Christian high school, was involved in youth worship, led the music ministry and things like that. And for a long time, I was just really heavily indoctrinated into that faith. And there was a time period where I was just always so hungry for that physical manifestation that you guys say, it's definitely a necessity. And I agree. And one of the things that I love about your show is that you get people thinking, I think skepticism is a necessity. And I definitely want to question everything. So, I mean, I count myself as an agnostic today. The only reason that I can't fully claim to be an atheist is because of the experience I had. So I was about 18 at the time, and I was constantly asking for some kind of manifestation, whether it was seeing demons, seeing angels, seeing anything, or feeling it, something like that, something beyond the traditional story that you hear about, oh, I had a feeling. It's just, I feel it. It's just not it wasn't good enough for me. And I don't think it's good enough for a lot of people, but neither here nor there. Anyway, so I go to this, I went to this, they had a they had Tuesdays and Thursday nights at this school, at my school's cafeteria. They would have a homeless soup kitchen, feeding line, and participated in that. It was run by another, I think an independent pastor that organized that. And I came to that event with a friend of mine, and he met me. I talked to him very briefly, and he had already asked, you're here looking for something. And so that kind of sent a red flag in my head initially. And then he was like, hang on. And I'm in the same cafeteria I had eaten lunch in for years. So I know there's no booby traps anywhere. There's no weird stuff going on. But he brings these two women over, and they're both at about a 45-degree angle on both sides of me, in front of me. Nobody lays a finger on me. Nobody's got any hands on me or anything. And they just put their hands up over me, and they're praying in tongues, and they're praying the gift to come over me. I had a sensation from coming up from the bottom of my feet, and by the time I realized it, I look down and it reaches my ankles, my knees. It's climbing, and the closest thing I could describe it to is if you lay on a limb for too long and you don't have any blood in it. It feels like
Sure.
You know what I mean. It feels like it's at a picnic. So, when I feel that hit my knees, I drop to the floor, and it covers my entire body from head to toe. And this is, and I'm telling you this not because I want to reinforce other people's false beliefs without evidence. I'm bringing this to you guys because this was what I was asking for. This was a physical happening. And it was, okay, so the experience, it was covering me from head to toe. It was like warmth and electricity. and I was crying my eyes out. I had a puddle of tears in front of me. And again, I'm sitting in the cafeteria I'd been to for years. There's no wires. Nobody's touching me. Nothing's happening. But I feel this. It's real, and it feels like raw power, just unreal power. And I can see like a glow around my hands. I look at my hands while I'm on the ground, and I see this glow around my hands. And as soon as I have the feeling, I'm just like, God, I really want to stay here. I just don't want to be anywhere else. It slowly just crept back off from the top of my head down out of my feet. And so after that, I was just ironically enough, I was in disbelief, and I just couldn't believe how real that experience was. And after that had happened,
Adam.
Yes, sir.
So you had some experience, an experience that was something along the lines of what you had been seeking. What is the explanation for that experience?
That's the question, because I don't want to make the claim that I know what did that, and I don't want to make the claim that
is it possible? Is it possible that nothing outside of you did that?
Yes, yeah, it absolutely is possible.
Okay, is it possible that some God did it?
Yes, it is possible.
How do you know that's possible? We know it's possible that this was a manifestation of your brain because of scientific investigations, dating back even to Extraordinary Popular Delusions and the Madness of Crowds, which investigated phenomenon that people think is supernatural and yet has natural explanations, that we feel things and experience things. So we know that our brain can influence stuff. But do we have any reason to think that it's possible that a God did it? When we say it's possible that your brain constructed this, it's because we have evidence of brains constructing this. When you say it's also possible that a God did it, what evidence do you have that it is possible for a God to do anything?
I would say that because I've never had another physical or really physical experience like that ever again. Even afterwards, I didn't immediately fall out of.
Okay, but that has nothing to do with the cause. Saying you haven't had this experience again doesn't answer the question of what makes you think it's possible that a God did it.
What makes me think that it's possible that a God did it? Honestly,
is it possible that a Bigfoot did it?
No.
Okay, so you don't think
because we don't have evidence of Bigfoot.
Sure. So why do you think it's possible that a God did it?
I'd have to agree with you. I honestly, there's no proof that a God did do it, so I can't. Well, why do I think it's possible? That could be because of the early indoctrination. Maybe it's a natural reaction to attribute that to.
But now we're asking a different question. Now we're asking why you might be convinced even absent of evidence, instead of why should you be convinced. Now, none of this gets to saying that a God didn't do it. You had some experience, maybe a God did it. But the time to believe that it was actually from a God is when you have evidence for that, not just saying, well, it seems possible to me. And I also know it's possible for my brain to have done this, but I'm going to go with the God explanation. So you are literally going for the explanation that you don't have evidence for its possibility over the explanation for which you do have evidence of possibility.
I see. But here's the thing, though. I think that making the statement that something is possible isn't making the claim that it was that cause, is it? So
No. It's you could say it's possible that it's Bigfoot, but I don't think Bigfoot did it. Yeah, you're correct, though. We're not making that. I'm just saying, in order for you to say, here's an effect, here's an event, and I want to find out what the best explanation for that event is. If you have several possible, demonstrably possible explanations, and one for which there's no demonstration that this is even possible, that Bigfoot did it, then believing that Bigfoot did it over the possible explanations is certainly irrational. Doesn't mean you're wrong, but it's irrational. If you expand that to go to, a God or whatever else, you have to actually give a justification for why, of the possible explanations, we would seek through possible explanations to find the one that's most plausible and most probable. But you're setting all of that aside and just saying, I'm going for one that I can't even demonstrate as possible. And that's the only thing I have a problem with. It's not that you're wrong. It's not that you are actually incorrect. It is that you are erroneous in your methodology.
Well, I kind of see it back to what you mentioned, like how I think somebody mentioned like water below one of the moons of Neptune, or I think the diamond underneath.
Yeah, Phil was talking about that.
Yeah, and
Underneath Europa.
So you accept that as a possibility that let's say there's plutonium under the crust of Neptune. You accept that as a possibility, but you have no proof for the claim, and you acknowledge that, but you're not making the claim that there is. But you do accept that as a possibility, right? Without evidence.
Well,
we have evidence that it's possible.
Right, we have evidence that plutonium does indeed exist. We've measured it. It's on our periodic table. We've found it in other rocks that we have in space, things like that. So we know that it is a possibility based on the past evidence that we've gathered over time.
I see.
Versus what you would say, because you said that you were, if I'm not mistaken, you said that you were agnostic, but that you wouldn't adopt the atheist label because you didn't have an explanation for this experience that you had, correct?
Yeah, essentially.
So currently, do you have a belief that a deity exists right now or not?
I'd say that I haven't decided that. I'd say that I am in pursuit of proof.
Okay.
Well, you are either convinced. Are you convinced that a God exists?
No.
Then you're an atheist. You're an atheist under the most common weak definition, which is anybody who does not believe that a God exists.
Sure.
That atheist doesn't require that you believe that no gods exist. It just requires that you are not convinced that any God exists. But I don't care about the label. I did a video about the label. You can call yourself whatever you want. What I care about is rational methodologies for reaching decisions. And if you had this experience, it's worth noting that while nobody has had the exact experience you had because it's unique to you, there are similar experiences that happen in various different religious traditions that have nothing to do with, that are mutually exclusive. So let's say that there's an event, a feeling that someone has of warmth that begins at their feet and the overwhelming love. We know that this type of experience can be achieved in many different religions that aren't compatible, and that in things that don't have anything to do with religion. And the examples that I've used before are I have felt incredible, emotionally overwhelmed at art, at music. These experiences from sex, drugs, and rock and roll, as bad as people want to try to make that out to be, I don't consider them vastly different from the euphoric experiences that people have while they're worshiping. It's not exactly the same, but they're along the same lines. There's a reason why people like to get drunk and people like to get high. It feels good. It gives them an experience.
And I'll tell you this. Just sorry to cut you off. But,
no, you're fine.
I'll tell you this though. That was when I was 18, and since then I have done a lot of experimentation. Not with crazy things. I'm not an addict of any kind. Never have been. But I've tried LSD. I've tried mushrooms, that kind of thing. Visual, whatever. I still honestly couldn't tell you that it was as profound an experience as that. And that's, again, me not making the claim.
No. I'm not. So the intensity of an experience is separate from the quality of it. And both of those are separate from what the explanation for the experience is. Because, for example, let's say you did a hallucinogenic drug. You knew that at 5 o'clock in the evening you took your hallucinogenic drug, and at 7 o'clock you saw a strawberry with a face and a cape flying around the room.
All right.
How do you know that it's because of the drugs?
Ooh, how do I know? Well, because I just took them.
Ah.
Because what else could it?
But that's the post hoc ergo propter hoc fallacy of after this, therefore because of it. It's likely, I would agree that it is likely, because you took a hallucinogenic drug, that you then experienced a hallucination. But can you draw a proper causal link to say that that drug is the reason I saw super strawberry flying around?
On my own, I probably could not. If I were hooked up to proper equipment that were measuring maybe scanning my brain activity, possibly.
Exactly. It's independent confirmation that allows us to reach the most accurate explanations for the world. Because at any given moment, I was talking to Beth the other day. I really don't even want to say this on the show, but because I was going to save it for another time. Have you ever had one of those moments where you really desperately wished you could go back in time and change something?
Of course, everybody has.
How do you know you haven't?
How do I know that I haven't gone back and actually changed it?
No, not that specific one. How do you know that you haven't actually gone back in time? Maybe you had 3 wishes, maybe you had 50 wishes, maybe you had 1,000,000 wishes, and you've used them up. You've actually gone back in time, each one of those instances, to that and made a different decision. How do you know that hasn't happened?
I'd say that it's only based, it's like you said, it's based on our own individual recollection.
It is what is called an unfalsifiable proposition. There's no way to prove that that's not the case, which is why when we come up with a null hypothesis, the null hypothesis is always unfalsifiable, or should be. And so that's what you're trying to disprove.
I see. So, and let me make one other side note to kind of support what you're saying as well about the possibility of it being produced by my own mind. The only other time that I've even come close to that experience was the one successful in self-induced lucid dream that I'd had. Mm-hmm. I was actually laying flat in bed, and I had started feeling that same engrossing feeling coming out from just behind me instead of below me. But it wasn't as intense, but it was. I did have a self-induced lucid dream. I don't know where you guys sit on lucid dreaming or anything, but
actually, you probably want to call in on a week when Tracy's here, because Tracy is the well, at least the Atheist Experience's foremost expert on lucid dreaming.
Okay.
But anyway, I wouldn't sweat it. Basically, the nutshell of this entire conversation is you had an experience you can't explain, and this seems to be preventing you from saying, oh, there's absolutely no God, and none of that matters. If you're not convinced that a God exists, you're an atheist. But you don't have to use that label. You can use whatever label you want. At the end of the day, do you think you have an explanation for what happened to you? And the answer seems to be no. And guess what? There's tons of things that happen that we don't have an explanation for. The only mistake is in thinking that you have an explanation when you don't.
Well, yeah, I mean, I definitely didn't want to come across as having an explanation. I was just...
No, you're fine.
Yeah.
And most of what you're doing methodologically is fine too, because when I say, how do you know that it's possible that a God exists? After a moment's thought, you realize, oh, wait a minute, I'm saying something's possible when I haven't demonstrated it. When many other people would say, well, how do you know it's not possible? You are not suffering from those flaws in thinking. You may have others. We all have errors in the way we think. But there's nothing, I don't find anything to be concerned about. You had an experience. You don't have an explanation for it. Maybe someday you will. Maybe you won't. Maybe it's God. Maybe it's not. But the time to believe it's God is after we have good reason to think it is.
And you can accept that possibility as well, right?
Well, I'm not accepting the possibility that God exists. I'm accepting that it is not impossible. It has not been demonstrated to be impossible.
Sorry,
it may,
a little cheap.
Yeah, it may in fact be impossible. I don't know whether it is possible or impossible.
Understood. Yeah, well, I'm definitely looking forward to the pursuit we all have here and finding those answers. And I really appreciate what you guys do, putting questions in people's heads. And thank you for the time speaking with me today. Hopefully, I'll call you guys again sometime soon. Can I ask you just one closing question, real quick? What's going to be like for this call for me personally? What's your best advice moving forward, looking for those rational explanations?
The best advice looking forward. Well, the first one I think you already kind of have a beat on is being honest with yourself, that actually acknowledging that you don't know what caused that experience. You say that you experienced it, but you don't know that cause. But I would say be honest with yourself going forward, and be honest in the approach of how you're looking for answers. If you start looking for a conclusion saying that, oh, well, it possibly might be a God, and so that starts leading you down the path of looking for specific things that may validate that one perspective, that may muddle the truth of what happened. And it's also accepting the possibility that you may never find out what actually led to that experience that you had on that side.
Keep asking questions.
Sure.
Keep asking questions and try to get comfortable with saying, I don't know, because that's going to be the answer quite often.
Yeah, but don't let it get to you if you never find out.
Yeah.
Still live.
Yeah. Thanks, Adam.
Thanks a lot, guys.
No problem.
It is our discomfort with I don't know that drives us to act or pretend as if we do know. It's something weird happened, I don't know what it was. It would be comforting to think, oh, that was a God making me feel this way, rather than sitting around going, what was that? Is there something wrong with my brain? That's a potentially terrifying thought, that there's something fundamentally wrong with your brain and it's just screwing with you. And maybe there's a tumor and you're about to die. And some people want to know, some people don't want to know. All of that is potentially terrifying. And yet, if you just say, it happened in this religious context, clearly that was a God trying to make me feel warm and fuzzy, and it worked. And now you have gotten rid of the discomfort of saying you don't know, and you've gotten rid of all the potentially negative scenarios because you've spun it in a positive way. But you have no idea whether or not you're right. And so you're taking comfort over truth. Sometimes the truth is, we don't know.
Yeah. I remember having a few experiences here and there, and it was usually dealing with music in church. Like that was usually where I found those experiences where, I understood that, people get the spirit. We were told about that, that, you kind of lose control over yourself, or, you're just filled with the Holy Spirit and it's supposed to make you feel X, Y, Z. Because we had plenty of people that would testify about that type of thing. But I remember after the fact, this was while I was identifying as spiritual but not religious, that type of thing, right? But in college, I was listening to a song for the first time. I was trying to bring it up on my phone to remember the name of it, but it was like a 7-string guitar that he was playing, and it was just incredible. Like I love music. I love and adore music like that. And I remember when he got to like the climax of the song, right after the bridge, and it was just incredible the way it sounded. I still remember it now, but I remember tearing up and breaking down. I was like sitting on the couch and I was just like gone. I was just like, this is an incredible feeling. He's amazing. Like it was just an amazing
these
feeling.
are things that we have good information about. Songs played in minor keys. They're sad.
Yeah.
They make when good songwriters understand this. Dan Barker can actually talk about it quite a bit as a pianist. But what you're doing. If there had never been a song in the entire history of the human being, and somebody played a song right now, you would think it was magic. The song that you have the biggest emotional response to, if it had risen in a vacuum, where there was no other song, and you heard that song, you would identify it as magic. There's no explanation for this. But instead, what we have is thousands and thousands of years of human beings trying to make better and better music. And what do? Well, let me play this. Everybody frowned. Let me play this. Everybody smiled. Let me play this. Oh, that person's getting weepy. Oh, those people. This is how we learn stuff. We react to music. It's not magic. It's the way our brains are. But
Right.
We have Felix in New York City. Thanks for waiting.
Oh, I'm not hearing it too well.
I'm not sure if we're hearing our own show back at us or what. Are you there, Felix?
That doesn't really sound like us. It sounds.
I think I'm listening to myself through distortion and everything. So I'll give Felix just a second to turn off his feed.
Hello?
Hey,
Hello.
Felix.
Okay.
Hello?
Hi, Felix. You had a question.
Hello?
Hello. Can you hear us, Felix?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Yeah, you're going to want to turn off your feed and actually listen to through your
Okay.
phone headset. So what was this? You're on with Matt and Phil live. What did you have for us?
Yes, I wanted to find out. Hello?
Yes,
Yeah,
we're here.
We're here.
Yes, I wanted to find out, is man love or does man have love?
Do I have? Am I love or do
Yes.
I have love?
Does man have is love or have love?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Is man love
Is man love?
Have-
No.
or have
But there's
love?
nothing wrong with man love.
Woo.
No, is man love or man has love?
Excuse me. Is man love or does man have love?
Yes.
So love is a label that we put on a complex array of emotional brain states. You know, there's different kinds of love. There's the love you have for a spouse or the love you have for your child or other human beings. There's romantic love. And then when you get into religion, you have labels like agape love and everything else. What is it you're asking? Okay, if you're not going to you didn't turn off your stream even after I asked. So, and I know that the people back there in the studio who are screening calls are really good about giving instructions to people. Hey, pay attention, turn off your stream. What do you think about love, Phil? Does man have love or is man love?
As far as we understand, we experience something that we label it, like you said. But
To me,
I
it's
just
as
didn't
silly
understand
as
that
saying,
question.
it's almost, is man hunger or does man have hunger? I mean, I'm not necessarily equating the two because I think generally speaking, we experience, understand, and satiate hunger far more than love, which is disappointing to many people.
Some people enjoy eating like they love it. They would describe it as such. So combine the two, but they're both labels for physical conditions that we recognize and have defined, so that I guess we can communicate better on that side as far as what hunger is, love is. But even though love might have different definitions for some people, of course, but it's we have it, I suppose.
I don't know. We'll go to Mike, who's been waiting in Panama for a long time. Thanks for waiting, Mike.
Yes, I have. Hi.
Hi. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, Mike. Please don't reach out from Panama and punch me in the face.
I knew it would take forever, and I'm awake now.
What if I hang up on you right now? You're just going to fly up here.
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
Okay, here's my problem. I have a lot of experience and have a mathematics degree, and all my life have been interested in everything scientific, from quantum theory to the universe. And I've got quite a bit of technical knowledge about it. But while describing this knowledge, I've had to use analogies for so long that I've managed to learn how to not to include mathematics, mainly through trial and error, lots of errors.
I have a friend who just gave me a paper.
Given questions we don't know. What I'm going to be doing, however, is I give talks down here in my retirement community. We have a lot of old farts like me who are fascinated, and I fill the auditorium with people who want to know. But I think I've made a mistake, a tactical mistake, because my next lecture is going to be questions and answers only on the universe. And those questions and answers I have not limited in any way. My wife said to me, Mike, gee, I think you stuck your foot in it because you're an atheist, and what are they going to do when they ask you about God and some of these questions? And I went, oh, boy. So I decided I need to call you guys, because I love your show, and ask you your advice on this. And I have a couple of things I'll tell you, then I want your answer. I said, number one, I can say head them off at the pass and make an announcement early, or only answer when it comes up. And I have a definite feeling I can't handle things the way you guys do, because you have license on the show because of its very nature, but I don't. So how do I handle theist questions about the universe without getting murdered, either figuratively or literally?
Well, I don't think that you advertised this talk or lecture or whatever, saying that you had the answers, all the answers as far as the beginning of the universe, things of that sort. But I would suggest that if you do get a question in regards to that, to keep it mathematical, to keep it scientific, to say that if someone asks, well, did God create the universe or whatever else, you can say what we scientifically know at this time, that, there was a singularity at one point, the expansion, things of the sort. So you stick to those topics. And if someone wants to go the religious route, then I would say, hey, you may want to talk to your priest or pastor or whomever about that topic. They may have some more information on that I don't have. I'm here to talk about what we've known and discovered through scientific methods, things of that sort. That's your area of expertise. That's what you want to stick to, versus getting into the other thing. And it's not chagrining them. It's not you're not being adversarial in it. You're just being honest. That's not your field of expertise, but you may want to check with someone who says that is their field of expertise, and stay within your own realm of what that your calculations or whatever you were going to actually present on.
You guys have really helped me, because that advice is part of my answer matrix I was contemplating. And fortunately, I've advertised it as there will be questions I don't have answers to.
Sure.
Because I'm only going to give current scientific knowledge about it, not what is absolutely true, which of course we can never know that.
Yeah, and I think
not necessarily never.
Is my mic on? Can you hear me? Is my mic on? I'm not hearing my mic.
Yes,
I can hear you through here, yeah.
Okay, I turned it down and didn't hear myself. So the key things for me, make sure that they understand that science isn't about determining or pronouncing the truth. It's about coming up with probabilistic models that are the best descriptions of the universe. And those models are subject to revision. Number two, in a bit of serendipity, I have here a paper which was handed to me today by a friend of mine who gave a talk on this. And the title of the talk is, "Which Cosmology Best Fits Observed Redshifts and Magnitudes of Normal Galaxies?" Without going into it, as much as I dearly love my friend, I think he could benefit from some analogies as well, because there's a lot of fucking numbers on this page. And I love it, except that it's beyond me. I'm going to pour over this later and go, God, I can't wait till we get like Lawrence Krauss down here, and I can have him and my friend sit down and we can all talk, and I will sit there quietly and learn something. So science isn't giving us truth.
You guys
don't have
given me the answer I've been looking for, which is don't head them off at the pass and make an announcement. Only answer when it comes up, and do it in a judicious manner. Yeah, well, you can go with it's Walter Ball's anecdote about Laplace presenting his findings to Napoleon about cosmology, and Napoleon basically said, "Oh my gosh, I've read that." Yeah, well, and absolutely. It probably didn't happen. This probably didn't actually occur. Basically, Napoleon asked Laplace, hey, why didn't you include a creator in this? And Laplace says, I had no need of that hypothesis. It's an anecdote, and but I think it comes back to what we were saying. That anecdote about Laplace and Napoleon is essentially what I was just saying, only much better worded by them. Yeah. And that is that, hey, we're trying to find out what the answer here is here, or come as close as we can to it. And the God hypothesis isn't really a hypothesis in the first place, but it also has no explanatory power. It doesn't educate us on anything. It is an attempt to solve a mystery by appealing to a bigger mystery. And so I'm here. It's an easy answer. It's an easy answer.
Yeah, and I'm here to explain to you what the current understanding of science is based on the best information. And since we have no information about a God, we don't get to include that. But it may be the case that old farts or not, it just doesn't come up that these people might actually be interested in the science.
You've answered me, and I want to make a couple of comments and hang up. It'll be about 1 minute.
Okay, doke.
You mentioned about the phone on the desk is always going to be there.
No.
Remember that Einstein said that the moon is still there even if I'm not looking at it. So he was not a solipsist. And I think that you were hitting that point. Secondly, question. Do you want me to send you links that I like about further info on the universe in video or text formats that does not include mathematics?
I didn't hear the last part of that.
I'm sorry. Do you want me to include links, send you an email that include links about further information on the universe, like loop quantum gravity and other crazy, wonderful theories, in video or text format links that do not include mathematics?
Oh, yeah, you can email tv@atheist-community.org.
I'll be happy to do that. And guys, thank you so much for your answers. Get somebody else on there that you can help.
All right, thanks, Mike. Yeah, we can't promise to answer, and it's worth noting, you can always email tv@atheist-community.org. That goes to all the hosts and co-hosts, some of the people behind the scenes, as well as some of the board members of the ACA as well. We get tons of email, figuratively speaking, and can't promise to answer all of it. I'm currently a little over 2 weeks behind from even looking at email because I was on vacation, and I have 9,000 something unread emails.
A substantial amount of email comes to
I'll never get to all of it, but we do try to read all of it, even if it's just a quick skim. And apologies to anybody who has anything serious and important that got lost in the flood. You weren't intentionally ignored. It's not that we read your email and decided, I don't want to talk to that person. It was probably more the case that it just fell into the void of emails. You can ask some of the people who've gotten responses from me and from other hosts on the show. Quite often, the biggest contributor or the biggest factor in whether or not you get a reply is whether or not I'm looking at my email inbox when it comes in. Because if I'm already sitting there in email answering mode and yours comes in, what's this? Oh, I can answer that. If instead it falls down, 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 emails, I don't normally have the time to go digging. But as a reminder, after the show's over here in a couple minutes, we'll be going to, where the hell are we going?
Star of India.
Star of India. It's 2900 West End. I remember the address and not the name. 2900 West Anderson Lane. It's right there at the bottom of the screen. Let's try to take one more call at least.
Go for it.
In the last minute of the show. There we go with Mitchell, which I love to say because of Mystery Science Theater 3000. That famous Joe Don Baker movie, Mitchell. Mitchell!
Okay.
Sorry.
Yes, sir.
Mitchell's like,
I'm letting my geek flag fly today, and I don't care who knows it. Thanks for waiting. What do you have for us?
Well, I wanted to talk about why the existing theories for why there's religion are insufficient. They don't work.
Okay.
I don't know we're going to get far with that in a minute or two.
Probably not in a minute or two.
No, but, I can throw it out there anyway. So, for instance, this one idea is that religion is for social cohesion, right?
Okay.
That's a big reason that's given. So the problem with that I have is that if you're familiar with this guy, Franz de Waal, who's written several books like The Bonobo and the Atheist and Primates and Philosophers, he says in these books that morality and ethics and altruism were essentially inherited from our animal ancestors, our primate ancestors. So if that's true, then why do we need religion for social cohesion?
So one of the things is that you're arguing against a specific facet. Many of the people who I've studied who look at an evolutionary explanation for religion don't tend to use a single factor. It's only about this, or it's primarily about this. It's more complex.
Well, that's right.
It's more complex than that.
And
I don't want to spend a bunch of time arguing against models of evolution of religion that I don't hold, because I'm not going to defend somebody else's view. And I'm afraid that we don't have time in the show for me to give my own, which is actually rather vague. I think that we are similar creatures trying to answer questions and survive, and coming up with similar stories that we like, that teach us lessons or allow us to convey, prior to the written word, it allowed us to convey the stories about us and who we were. Some of them simply made us feel good. Some of them taught us moral lessons. Some of them were used to show why our social group was better and preferred by the gods than some other one. And this complex mesh of this allows these ideas to progress and then get codified. And then the ones that are able to walk the line between not completely able to be disproven and yet still provide comfort and usefulness and exploit fears, all of that for its own propagation. Those are the ones that survive. The ones that say lightning is, from, aliens, when we know now that it's a natural phenomenon, those go away. So it's about being just specific enough to be useful and feel valuable to people at an emotional level, and not specific enough to fall by the wayside when we learn the truth.
So that's the coping mechanism, or the existential anxiety question of why people have religion. And I have some thoughts on that too, but I guess we're not going to have a chance to get to it, are we?
Yeah, you can try calling back another time. I apologize for waiting till the end of the show to get to it, but we're completely out of time for the day. And on that note, my apologies to anybody else we didn't get to. But thanks to the people on the other side of the glass who made it to Austin from all over the place, including my former high school, somebody from California. You can stay. We like you enough. You can stay. We are live from Austin, Texas, the Keep It Weird live music capital of the world. And also, you can visit the Atheist Community of Austin's webpage at atheist-community.org to find out more about the ACA and their efforts. Don't forget the events, charitable events, and the Darwin Day events that we talked about earlier. You can find more information there. You can email TV at atheist-community.org. There's an Atheist Experience official Facebook page, which may or may not suit your needs, depending on how Facebooky you are. I'm not there. And as I said, we can't get to all the email, but we do appreciate it. And most importantly, while we strive to get theist callers on the show, we're happy to talk to atheists when we can. It just doesn't always fit with the show, but it certainly fits with the after show and the community building and the efforts we're doing for the community. Hit us up at Star of India here shortly, and we'll see you again next week. Thanks.
Goodbye, everyone.
Hi, this is Russell Glasser, host of The Atheist Experience. The Atheist Experience is made possible by volunteers and the generous support of viewers like you. If the promotion of positive atheist culture and separation of church and state are values that you hold, please consider contributing by becoming an ACA member or visiting our product page at evolvefish.com under the Partner tab. Thank you.